Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr. Speaker, I also commend Jackie Dean and the Local Government Environment Select Committee for this Conservation National Heritage Protection Bill. A lot of forethought has gone into it, and of course work since it came into the committee. Members were very enthusiastic once they heard the basic facts around what penalties were being administered and punishments in terms of jail terms were being applied when it came to those who thwarted the law and damaged our flora and fauna in New Zealand, or indeed stole it, both for sale domestically and export illegally. And so what it does, it's administered the law by the Department of Conservation. What's going to happen is there's going to be an increase in penalties with the passage of this bill, and will also implement a consistent approach to penalties across the amended laws. So essentially two things are happening. The Conservation Department, or the Conservation Department that essentially that administer these laws in this Act, what they're going to do is raise the penalties on one hand and then apply more consistently across various acts on the other. So, as introduced, amendments are proposed to the Conservation Act, yes, 1987, but also to the National Parks Act, 1980, the Reserved Act, 1977, the Wildlife Act of 1953, and the Wild Animal Control Act of 1977. So penalties will be increased for a number of offences where wildlife have been endangered or protected natural habitats damaged, and that will then extend across various acts. And one of the questions the committee were putting to officials on this is how it actually works in with other acts which are more modern in terms of the penalties and offences that they list, such as the Fisheries Act and those acts that essentially affect marine reserves, how those penalties align with the ones that we were looking at making changes to, or Jackie Dean was proposing we make changes to. So there is much more alignment. We've done some investigation on the Fisheries Act and some of those other pieces of legislation which are regularly modernised in regard to penalties, and we've come up with some significant numbers now which we believe are about right. We received 8 submissions and had a good round with advisors on several occasions getting things right. So we've divided into 2 types of penalty, one targeted to those people or entities who are substantially not motivated by commercial gain or reward. So they're doing damage, they're causing death, or they're stealing wildlife or fauna, but not for commercial gain or reward. So for the lesser offences, we're recommending that individuals' term of imprisonment would not exceed 1 year, or a fine not exceeding $100,000 for body corporates who are not voted by commercial gain or reward. The fine is not exceeding $200,000, and for continuing offences, a further fine not exceeding $10,000 per day. So those are significant funds: $100,000 for an individual, $200,000 for a body's corporate, and then $10,000 per day as the offence is continuing. So for more serious offences for people not pursuing a personal gain, but more serious offences such as discharging firearms, injuring or attacking or somehow abusing official personnel, such as obstructing an officer, taking plants, those sort of offences, we've decided that there wouldn't be an increase in the dollar amount, but we're looking at increasing the term of imprisonment by a further year. So no more than 2 years. So the offence would go from a 1 year to a 2 year if there is much more serious offending. And then we've got the second tier of those offences, and that's where offences are committed for commercial gain or reward. So for individuals it goes from 100,000 to 300,000, from a maximum of 1 year to a maximum of 5 years. For bodies corporates, the fine goes from 200,000 to 300,000, and for continuing offences for those who are after a commercial gain will not be at 10,000 per day but at $20,000 per day. So that's a significant list to what is there currently. As indicated by Jackie Dean and others in the debate tonight, and people will see it referenced in the Hansard right through the second reading, we've made sure that that is aligned across various acts, not just the Conservation Act. So the National Parks Act, Reserves Act, Wildlife Act and Wild Animal Control Act, and members of the public can be assured they also align with those acts that control offences in marine reserves, marine parks, and of course under the Fisheries Act as well. So there is significant consistency right across government there. So this bill sends a very, very strong message, Mr Speaker, that we take the protection of New Zealand's wildlife and natural areas very, very seriously. The bill will complement further smuggling deterrence measures that are soon to be introduced by the Conservation Minister, which will increase fees for wildlife smuggling, as I say, to 5 years in jail and $300,000. The bill also complements our efforts since being elected to boost the conservation estate, better protect our great outdoors and make sure that more New Zealanders get use from it. So although members from the Labour Party do spin the line regarding the vote or the amount of finance that goes into docket share to be distributed and used by them, the reality is that vote conservation now is $444 million. It's in the books, it's clear there for everyone to see. It's almost doubled the $226 million that was there in 2001-2, so just over 10 years ago. There's a significant doubling there. We're investing in recovery programs for 36% more threatened species, and we're focusing on what matters, Mr Speaker. So I commend Jackie Dean for bringing this bill to the House. I commend her for all the support she's got in this Parliament and outside the Parliament. Very sensible changes are being made here, Mr Speaker, and I commend the bill to you.
Honourable Marianne Street.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. It gives me